saw. There are a couple of new ones. I heard about this, but I didn't see this story until now. So this is part of the OT security issue that we've been talking about a lot, and it's getting more and more priority, more and more prominence over the last couple of years. Operational technology is mechanical devices in factories and power stations and things like that, and they're typically incredibly vulnerable. In fact, I just heard a blog about an attack last year on water stations, attacked by a foreign adversary. I think it was maybe Iran, I forget, or Syria. And they asked them what exploit they used to get in. And the exploit they used to get in was the controllers were connected directly to the internet with no password at all. No exploit, not even a default password. They just sent commands to it over the internet. And I've seen that before. And so these things are automatic tank gauges they use to measure fuel levels in storage tanks. So they're able to completely control them over the internet with critical vulnerabilities. The thing is, what exact harm does it do when you fool a fuel gauge? And they're saying you could trick it into overflowing the fuel, I guess. I guess another thing you could do is make them think the thing is full when it's really empty or something. Anyway, they have control of it. It just seems like the actual risk here is somewhat small, but maybe I just haven't been imaginative enough. Hard-coded credentials, so it's basically default password. These flaws tend to be technically very simple. Anyway, I'm just going to save this and put it on Mastodon. And the next one is also, I'm glad to see this. This is something I've been telling people. I was just telling one of my other classes today about this. As you know, large language models are now intelligent in the sense that they passed the Turing test. Now, decades ago, Turing said, we'll define human intelligence as being able to talk so I can't tell from a text-only chat room whether you're talking to a human or a machine. And they can definitely pass that test now. And now we're realizing, that probably wasn't the smartest test. Just the fact that they can do that doesn't really make them as smart as a human. And apparently IBM has believed for a long time that they can fire their staff and replace it with AI using Watson. But Watson is way behind ChatGPT. That's their AI. They were pushing it everywhere about 4 years ago, and you stopped hearing about it at least 2 years ago, because I think it turned out not to be much good. And they talk about these things, how bad they are. They say this is worse than when they tried to outsource everything to India. That was all the rage about 15 years ago. They'd outsource all the jobs to India, and then they find out that the quality of the work was very bad, and they really weren't saving money because they had so many complaints from customers and stuff. So AI tools are writing code for them, but they say the whole outsource thing is a myth, that the upper executives believe. This is extremely common in large organizations. Like you can think of the Trump White House. The top executives live in a fantasy world, believing stuff that is totally not true. The people below them know the truth, but they know that the boss doesn't want to hear the truth. So they just lie to them. This happened to Putin. Putin killed a whole bunch of people after invading Ukraine because his generals told him the equipment is in good shape, our soldiers are in good shape, we'll just wipe them out, no problem. And it was all a lie. But none of them had the guts to tell him the truth. So when he actually did the invasion, he discovered that they'd been lying to him all along. And so anyway, they say Watson X isn't even available to employees to attempt to try to automate a task. It's far behind OpenAI and ChatGPT, and we know that even ones using the modern AIs cannot really replace a human, except for a very rudimentary task. The one thing I've heard that's working pretty well is when you call a restaurant and you want to reserve a table, they have an AI doing that can make a pleasant voice over the phone and make a reservation and answer simple questions like, what are your open hours? They can do very simple things, but they can't really do too much. So this is why Gartner places large language models at the peak of the hype cycle, which is where people have expected it to do awesome things and they're beginning to notice the problems and realize that it's not really all that great after all. So here's one other one. These plant cyber attack. Somebody attacked a Kansas water plant with an attack over the internet. And they were forced to switch its water treatment facility to manual operations. So this is a critical infrastructure attack, and I don't know if they're going to tell us much about who did it or exactly what they did yet. Iran and China have definitely been doing these things. In past one, Volt Typhoon is one that did it. I don't think we have yet an attribution of who did this one. But like I say, these attacks tend to be incredibly trivially simple. All right, and I guess that's all the time I want to talk about news today. I'm going to stop.